influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with The Local Station.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Going Ringside. It is a good one. I'm Scott Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Before we talk about TMZ is here, I want you to talk a little about our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@GoingRingside. We need your help. Do us a favor. Go to the channel. If you're not watching it here already, click subscribe. We need to keep increasing this, but I need to talk about who's on tap for today. Bring it up here. We are talking about the brand new show called Inside the Ring that TMZ just launched in the last couple months. I noticed this. I'm like, why this matters to me? Let me just explain. I've been alone on this. I've been the only kind of mainstream media guy doing pro wrestling anywhere. Now it looks like someone else is. TMZ has launched the Inside the Ring podcast when they're bringing a lot of big stars on it. So I want to sit down with their host, Brandon Quirk, here in just a moment. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about their show, but we're going to talk about a lot of the exclusives they've got on the Hulk Hogan death situation. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon and so much more. So I'm excited to bring this to you, and I want to get right to it. Here is the new TMZ Wrestling Podcast. That one right there, TMZ's Inside the Ring.
Well, we're excited to be joined by a new entrant into the pro wrestling world, Brandon Quirk with TMZ's Wrestling Podcast, Inside the Ring, right? Inside the Ring?
Yes, TMZ's Inside the Ring.
Welcome to the show. How did this idea come about?
Well, let me tell you, this is years in the making at TMZ. I've been here myself at TMZ for 3 years. I am a producer in the podcast department. That's where I began, and I was an associate producer. So I had been banging on the door with Harvey Levin here, with other producers. I was really trying to fight for a wrestling podcast. I was trying to, get the message across that there's a lot out there that we're not doing with wrestling here at TMZ, not just in a podcast, but also wrestling news and so forth. So eventually I became the podcast producer, where now I am the head of the podcasts. So now, this is just a few months ago, so now I was able to kind of bang that door down, really get this started. And so far, Harvey Levin, everybody here, the executives, everybody is loving it. And now TMZ is now pushing for more and more wrestling content.
So I'm fascinated by this because I live in a similar world where I've had to push through mainstream media and convincing them to let me do, well, it was actually their idea, but to do a wrestling show and help them understand what it is. Do you run into that dynamic? Because I do, with a lot of people that you work with who just don't quite get wrestling?
Oh, absolutely. Like a few years ago, so my co-host Roger, he's been here longer than I have, and he was also pushing for this years and years ago, and he ran into that same dynamic where they just don't understand it. They don't think that there's a big enough audience, because at the end of the day, it's what are we using our resources on? What are we using our time for? And to them, wrestling was just very niche, because, and you'll hear that from a lot of people, they think it's very niche, but then when you really explore it and look at how many people are watching weekly, not just WWE, AEW, TNA, when you look at that whole conglomerate of content, including the independent wrestling scene too, you find that there are just millions, tens of millions of people that watch it. And that's what we ran into, where I was actually showing numbers and showing stats of other websites of how wrestling was doing, that they finally allowed this.
So let's just talk about, you guys kind of came out quick. And one of the guys you had on recently made some headlines, a guy who I've made headlines with myself every time he comes on, Matt Riddle. The Riddle interview is kind of blowing up the whole wrestling ecosystem over the last news cycle.
Definitely. And just going back to how long we've been doing this, just a month now. So just today actually is the month anniversary of this podcast. We're about 12 episodes in. Our second guest was Matt Riddle back when we first began this, the second week of August. And Matt Riddle came on, and we really didn't expect too much from it, we thought we'd just talk about what he has going on in the wrestling scene and the independent scene, what he's got upcoming matches at MLW and so forth. And he came on, and immediately when we started bringing up WWE, that's when he kind of latched on, started talking about CM Punk. And then just flash forward a few weeks just to last week, we had him on again after he was in the headlines for skipping a charity wrestling event in the United Kingdom. And he wanted to explain himself. So I got on the phone right then that morning. I had his phone number. I was like, I have to at least try. So I called him up, and let me tell you, the first thing he did, he goes, bro, I need to get on your show and defend myself. So he jumped on, and from there, just kept going and going on and on about his explanation for this. We saw a lot about that online already. But then I thought, hey, let's bring up CM Punk again.
Yeah.
Let's see if maybe he wants to
I've been in this
down.
exact spot with Matt Riddle, yeah.
Hey, man, he has no filter. He has no filter whatsoever. And I said, hey, AJ Lee coming up here on Friday might be coming back to WWE. And that's when he immediately just decided to launch into a rant, not really about her, but said, I got no problems with her. I've got no problems with CM Punk. But then persisted to take a jab at them, saying that AJ Lee, and I quote, gets around back in the day. He said CM Punk was a creep. Did not expect that whatsoever, and I don't want to condone any of that whatsoever.
So I've been in this issue. I've been in this exact spot with Riddle, and he just starts going. What are you doing at that point? You just listening? You know, it's a tough spot to be in as a host.
It definitely is, and it's funny because I went to edit it afterwards, and I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to make headlines right away, right off the bat. So it was a decision factor of, do I cut this out? Do I leave it in? What do I do as a host here? What am I trying to convey to the wrestling world? But, I mean, me and Roger, we sat here in silence. We were just shocked that he was saying these things, but we knew that this would get headlines, and we thought, Matt Riddle is going to do his Matt Riddle thing. We're not condoning any of it whatsoever. We want everybody to know that. We're not condoning it at all. But he said what he said, and sometimes these wrestlers, they dig themselves in these holes, and if they're going to do that here on our show, and this is TMZ, then that's going to happen.
My experience with wrestlers is they're unlike any other interview that you get, because they all immediately will do something on camera that you won't get with a pro athlete, you won't get with a Hollywood star. Wrestlers will go places that a lot of other celebrities won't.
You're absolutely right. I just was talking about this with my co-host, because when you get actors on, you get athletes on, they've got their reps typically watching, or their reps are in the room. Here at TMZ, many of the actors, for example, we had a Love Island contestant in just recently, and she brought 2 reps with her in, making sure she's saying the right thing and so forth. But with a wrestler, they typically don't have a rep that's listening. And in the pro wrestling world, a lot more filters are off that we've seen. More recently, I think a lot of those filters have, been capped a little bit more. But in terms of wrestling, and that's why it's so exciting for me. I love talking to wrestlers because they're real and they'll tell you what's on their mind. With Matt Riddle, he definitely pushes over the line, but even with WWE wrestlers, they push the line too. And I just love it. And that's why I love doing this podcast.
So the Riddle's a good example. When I had Riddle on and he did some Punk stuff and it went by, I don't know who to show it to, because no one quite understands it. What has been the response when you show it to coworkers? Do they get, this is getting a buzz? That's what we're going for.
Right. Well, there's a few things on our show that have gotten some headlines, including not just Matt Riddle. We had Elena Black, formerly known as Cora Jade, on, and she said a few things as well about retirement, about her experience in the business. She didn't tread over the line too hard, but in terms of response from coworkers, everybody sees it as obviously headlines and everything. But the main thing too is just having that conversation about, well, let's be careful with, let's not make this the front of the episode. Let's not make this the title of the episode. Well, the way I see it is that if it's in the episode, that's where I let it live, and I'll let people, like news outlets, they come in the interview and they find those moments and then they'll do headlines. But here at TMZ, I'm not super big of a fan of taking a moment like that.
Are you running into issues with, there's a lot of wrestling content out there. You're honestly, I mean, me and you and maybe one or two others are the kind of first like actual media members doing it.
Right.
But it's just, there is a sea of a lot of it out there. And many with, like Undertaker's podcast. I lost Donald Trump's interview to Taker's podcast. So, there's just a lot out there.
Definitely. I was actually trying to find how many podcasts there are in the wrestling world, and there are at least over 1,000 wrestling podcasts. And like you said, we are the first two, if anything, we are the only two, one of the few wrestling podcasts that are backed by a brand, backed by a news agency of sorts, which, in my opinion, the only thing I can think of is how much of an advantage it is for us, because it definitely helps us get guests. I think if we didn't have the TMZ brand attached to this, I would have a heck of a lot more issues trying to get people on this podcast, because we don't just have this podcast here at TMZ. We have the TV show. We have TMZ Live, TMZ on TV. Yeah. We have a lot of mediums.
I do want to ask about another TMZ project, which corresponded with when you launched this, the Hulk Hogan special.
Right.
Yeah, talk to me about that. Was that just a separate project, or was that intertwined with you guys?
So that was in the works actually far before. I mean, so it's interesting because Hulk Hogan passed away not long before we launched this podcast. This happened very, very quickly. Once I started to get it going, it happened quickly. And during the time of development, very, very early on, is when Hulk Hogan passed away. Yeah. And if you don't know this, TMZ is the one that broke the Hulk Hogan death news. It's in our documentary. In the very beginning, you see the newsroom just going crazy because Michael Babcock, executive sports here, he got that phone call about Hulk Hogan, and immediately we threw it up. And it's really tragic because, I really wanted to have Hulk Hogan on this podcast for one of the first interviews because TMZ does have a relationship with him. But no, that documentary was not intertwined with this whatsoever. But I will say, Harvey Levin and TMZ jumping into the wrestling world with that documentary is definitely what helped open the door for this actually becoming.
I was lucky. I was one of his final interviews, and we're debuting on television here in a few weeks. So I'm using the Hogan interview to kind of launch the TV show. But his death was fascinating because there were, with Bubba the Love Sponge and everyone, there was all the debate on what's going on with Hulk. He's gone dark for several weeks. And I totally bought into what Sky Daly was saying, and she probably was accurate. I'm not saying she wasn't, that Hulk's just recovering from surgery and he's an elderly man. And that's what I thought it was, which I was shocked when your guys' headline came out that he had passed away.
Yeah, Sky Daly. I just did a live shot about this a week ago. Sky Daly, if anybody doesn't know, Sky Daly is setting up a malpractice lawsuit against one of the doctors that worked on Hulk Hogan during his neck surgery back in May of this year, because she believes that it was the phrenic nerve that is what caused him to not be able to breathe in that moment on the day of his death, which eventually led to him passing away. So it's interesting because you have Brooke Hogan saying one thing and you have Sky Daly saying another. Brooke Hogan herself, we talked to her several times here at TMZ with Harvey, and Brooke believed that Hulk Hogan, possibly there was some foul play involved, maybe some medical malpractice, but then just before Sky talked about filing this lawsuit, she said herself, Brooke Hogan said that she doesn't believe that there was any foul play whatsoever. So you got two sides here saying different things, and people are obviously grieving in their own way. Brooke Hogan, I think she's trying to move past this right now, trying to get through this grief. And if Sky Daly, like I said on this live shot I just did with Seattle, if she believes this truly, and if there's evidence to support it, then that's definitely very, very tragic.
Do you think we've lost something? I mean, I think the depression really set in, despite Hogan's drama that had preceded him in the years prior to his death. I mean, kind of a hole in the wrestling world with his loss.
Sure, and it came like completely out of left field. When I heard this news come out, I was in the newsroom when it broke, and I just couldn't even believe it. I was in a state of shock for over a day or so, and it's just so hard because obviously Hulk Hogan was a complicated figure in his later years. His final WWE appearance, he had some boos in the crowd. So there was a lot of people that were mixed on that. We have definitely lost something major in the wrestling community. There is a hole, I believe. And I think that is just very complicated because of the opinions of many people. Because we had in our doc, Mark Henry, we had several different wrestling figures come on and speak about him. Sylvester Stallone as well. And Mark Henry, he said that, you know, everything he said and did, some of the things that he did was very hurtful, and some of them also chose to remember the positive things about him. So it's just tough to gauge here. But what's your opinion on that? Do you think that we have a massive hole right now, or do you think
I think we do. I mean, I would always think, and this is going to sound morbid, but I always think about dead wrestlers. We've lost so many over the years, Iron Sheik recently and others, but it always seemed like the Hulkster's still around. He is wrestling. And then his passing is just signified that era, that golden era is passing away. And it's sad. And I think it's why Vince McMahon spoke out. I mean, Vince McMahon has been in hiding for just not a public life. And I thought he may eventually return to public life. But Hulk Hogan's passing is the reason why he came back, the reason why we saw him speak again in public for the first time in like a year and a half or 2 years. Because it's a loss of Americana. It's why our governor here in Florida, Ron DeSantis, declared it Hulk Hogan Day in Florida, which I was stunned by. I happened to be on vacation when this happened near Seattle, ironically. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening when I'm, not at work. But yeah, I think it's just left a hole in Americana, and because Hulk had reinvented himself in the last year before his death. I mean, I was with him at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee when he did that endorsement, which just reintroduced himself to America. I mean, granted, it was in the political forum, but it was still, Hulk Hogan was back, and he's on Fox News all the time, and he's everywhere, and he launches his beer brand. And it was really interesting to see Hulk Hogan just kind of back as an A-list star, who I honestly think impacted the election. I think Hulk Hogan's speech, and I'll say this little story, and I want to get on to some other stuff. Sure. At the RNC, I was outside the event when Hogan watched. There were hundreds of cops there, all sitting around doing security. They could have cared less about any speaker. When Hulk Hogan walked on the stage, every single cop, there were dozens of them, I saw run to monitors to watch Hulk Hogan. I'm like, he just impacts America that much. I don't know. I could go on Hogan for hours, as you could too. I do want to ask you about McMahon, though. McMahon, obviously, despite the Hogan stuff, just in general, it looks like his legal issues may be wrapping up. Do you think Vince McMahon returns to public life beyond the Hogan stuff, just as a promoter and entertainer? What do you think?
I mean, first of all, it was incredible that we had him on the TMZ documentary when he came on, because I was like you. I'm thinking Vince has not spoke out in public for over a year and a half. He's very, very picky about where he goes, where he talks to. So it shows the impact of Hulk Hogan, because the first thing he said when he came on here, I heard him say it off the record, was this is a great opportunity for me to talk about my friend. And that's what he wanted to do. Hulk Hogan had a huge impact on his life, and Vince on Hulk's life as well. And I believe that, like you said, his legal issues are wrapping up right now. I'm not going to put it past the possibility that Vince McMahon could end up maybe getting involved in WWE again. I know TKO has their ideas about this and so forth, but Vince McMahon, from what we've seen him over the decades, I can't imagine him not having a foot in the door somehow.
So one question I have, he has his 80th birthday party in the last couple of weeks, and it's been a who's who. And I don't want to say the wrong names, so I don't want to name them, but just a bunch of A-list icons from wrestling all meet him at a fancy restaurant. And it just makes me think, do you think he's still running it all behind the scenes? I wonder that. Like, did he ever really leave?
Question. It's a good question. I literally talked about this with my friends a couple weeks ago. I'm thinking, again, Vince McMahon, the way that Vince is, he said he would do this until the day that he dies.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine him not pulling some strings whatsoever. And think about it. Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah,
Triple
and I
H.
got to interrupt you because everyone says, no, Triple H is, that's his literal son-in-law. His daughter's back.
His father-in-law, right?
Vince is his father-in-law. His daughter's back. Like, I call BS. I never believed he was totally disassociated from the company despite everything WWE says.
You guys think about it. Triple H, Stephanie, Vince, they go to dinner together on a Saturday night, and you don't think that Vince is, trying to convince Triple H to do something this way and this way. And Triple H doesn't have to tell anybody about the conversations that he has with Vince. So these decisions that Triple H is making, I'm not saying that this is true.
And he hangs
whatsoever.
out with Taker, probably close to Cena and Rock. I've never truly bought it.
Right. I'm there with you. I'm right there with you.
What do you think of Cena? Cena's leaving. Do you think that the company recovers? Where do they go from here?
I really don't think that WWE at this very moment needs John Cena as much as they used to. I think that they have formed such a great product without him. And I think that Cena knows that as well. The one question I have for you, and this might be a little off topic, but it's still Cena. Do you think that TKO, do you think that WWE is doing his farewell tour right? Do you think that this is the best use of John Cena towards the end here?
I guess. I mean, I don't know the right answer. I've never been a big fan of announcing a guy's end date. It just kind of ruins everything. Seems manufactured as a big retirement party. In fact, his whole heel turn to me just nothing seemed. It just all seemed scripted for his retirement. And I don't like retirement matches. I never have. They're just depressing. I get it. I get it.
It just flip-flopped right off the bat.
Yeah.
Heel back to babyface out of nowhere.
Heel back to babyface. And I don't know. It's ironic. Matt Riddle told me he doesn't think he'll retire. He thinks he'll be back, which makes I don't think he will. However, if Hollywood dries up in 5 years, I don't know. That's I could see him. Rock did. Rock returned. Rock went to Hollywood, never looked back, and then decided to come back. I don't know. But I mean,
it's foolish to say that it won't be just like, how The Rock went away for 10 years. And in WrestleMania 27, he was the host all of a sudden. I think we're going to see that with Cena. And I don't think it's going to take 10 years. I think it's going to be about maybe 5. Give it some time. But there's no way that WWE is not going to be chasing after John Cena, throwing as much money as possible at him to get him back for maybe one more WrestleMania match.
And before we wrap up, I want to indulge you in my wild conspiracy theory that I've talked about on our show a lot. Dwayne Johnson did a show called Young Rock, which you probably heard about.
Yeah.
The premise of the show is he runs for president. I've seen him do political lines. I've seen actual political polling. And I know that we have a celebrity president now, and there's been talk about where do the parties go from here. Do you think Dwayne will do it?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I do not think as much as I think that Dwayne would love to do it himself, I think that what kills it for him is that one thing with The Rock is that he loves being loved. He loves to be liked, and he loves being the yes man, right? He just loves being liked. So jumping into the political scene like that would be
hated.
I'm not saying it's career suicide, but we've seen The Rock in the past have these issues where he doesn't take a side. He endorsed Joe Biden and then eventually said he regretted doing that. And then he got some flack for that. So he really does a good job at staying out of that. For example, if you watch Joe Rogan's podcast with The Rock, you will hear 3 hours of The Rock just deflecting any type of political comments. And I don't believe that The Rock will ever want to be hated like that on one side. The Rock is he's an everyman. He loves to be loved by everybody. I don't think that would be in his cards. Do you?
Well, Branson, Quirk, hang out after the interview's done. I want to talk to you a little bit more off camera, but where can people find the show? Where do they learn all about it?
So Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, also on YouTube, on TMZ Sports channel. Pretty much anywhere you go, TMZ.com, you can see it on the front page as well. But again, TMZ's Inside the Ring. Just search that up. We got episodes every Tuesday, every Thursday. We also do recaps of Raw, SmackDown, AEW, and so forth. But mainly, we're really trying to get as many interviews as we can. And we have a great line of guests coming up, not just this week, but also in October. We have some amazing people actually coming in here to the desk, and it's going to be wild. And you don't want to miss it.
Branson, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
So that's it. TMZ is in the pro wrestling world with Inside the Ring. Check it out. Excited to see that I'm not the only journalist guy doing wrestling anymore. There's now someone out in Los Angeles. And for our viewers here in Jacksonville and all over, remember we're going to TV September 23rd on CW Channel 17, 7:30 Tuesday nights, right before NXT. And we'll put all the shows on the Going Ringside YouTube channel, so we hope you check them out. Thank you for watching this episode. I'm Scott Johnson. We'll see you back here next time.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News 4 Jax Plus, as well as the News 4 Jax YouTube channel.